Hey everybody, welcome into the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy. We have journalist Tara Palmeri with us today. We'll chat with Tara in just a little bit. But first, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you listening, and we'd love to hear your comments. So email us at backroomandy@gmail.com and or post on our social media, and we'll read some feedback next time. And if you like the podcast, please rate and review and follow or subscribe, and you'll be notified every time we post a new episode. So man, what a week!
What happened?
I feel like I didn't have to go to the gym this week. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. It's crazy. The amount of critical news that has dropped this week and last week, these past 2 weeks have been dizzying. But here's the thing. I think the Trump presidency is in serious crisis mode right now. I think it's coming at him from all sides. I think it starts with his approval, which is in the gold-plated toilet right now at about 36%, according to the latest polls. We're coming off this election, which was unbelievably consequential in terms of the momentum and leverage that it's giving Democrats. This is an election that was about affordability, and Trump sat and said, I don't want to hear about the affordability. Literally said that. Those were his words. The shutdown, which is finally over, voters blamed Republicans for that. He went on Fox with Laura Ingraham and insulted American workers, which was kind of bizarre. He's waiting on bated breath for SCOTUS to decide whether or not his tariffs are legal. He's waiting for the courts to decide whether or not his James Comey and Tish James indictments are going to be thrown out because U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan might have been illegally appointed. The Jeffrey Epstein shitstorm has just gotten so much bigger this week with that data dump of 20,000 documents and these incredible, incriminating emails that have come out that everyone's talking about. We also have the fact that Adelita Grijalva was finally sworn in on Wednesday. She immediately signed the discharge petition, which is going to force a floor vote to release the full Epstein files. Interestingly, Mike Johnson, who has delayed this for the last 2 months, decided that rather than December, let's have the vote next week. I don't know what that's all about, why he suddenly has sort of flipped from a timing perspective, but we'll see what happens next week, if that vote in fact takes place. And apparently there's going to be a mass defection of Republicans who are going to vote with Democrats on this. Then it goes to the Senate. And there's talk that the Senate is going to also go against Trump, and maybe to the point of voting with a veto-proof majority. And then it would go to Trump's desk, which opens up a whole other can of whoop-ass in terms of what does he do then? Okay, Senate wants it, the House wants it, the American people want it, MAGA wants it, I promised it, but I am going to be the only one in America who doesn't. How's that going to go? But these emails that came out, here's just a few of the takeaway quotes, the highlights. Victim, which was redacted, spent hours at my house with him. This is Jeffrey Epstein emailing Ghislaine Maxwell about Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him. He, meaning Trump, is the dog that hasn't barked. He, meaning Trump, knew about the girls. I know how dirty Trump is. Trump is evil beyond belief and mad. And it's hard not to look at all of this collectively, especially when Trump has spoken publicly twice in front of the media since this dump of emails, and he hasn't taken a question from reporters. He's retreated, and he really seems like a wounded animal. Most importantly, with Donald Trump, he has controlled the narrative. He has dominated the news cycle the way he wants to for 10 years now. And this is the one time where he's lost control of the narrative. He cannot spin. He cannot deflect. He cannot gaslight or lie his way out of this. This does seem like a giant boulder that is rolling down a hill. And call me crazy, and I've said this in the past, that we may be at an inflection point. But it's really hard to look at this scandal, this shitstorm, how he's reacting to it, how Republicans are starting to defect, how MAGA is pissed off, how the voters went to the polls last week and vented about their dissatisfaction. It's hard not to look at all of that collectively and not think that this time just might be different.
I wonder if Mike Johnson is just trying to stop the bleeding, and in terms of how many Republicans will defect and vote. And so the longer he delays the vote, I think the more Republicans will probably come on board. Maybe he thinks if he just takes a vote, he can stop the bleeding, they can move past it and kind of go back to just throwing immigrants into jail.
2 weeks ago or so, 3 weeks ago, Eric Swalwell, congressman from California, he came out and started posting something like, there's a bombshell about to drop. And some of my colleagues on the right are telling me that they are about to dump Donald Trump. And then that quietly kind of went away. Mm-hmm. It was like a little bit of news among the junkies for a day or two. This Swalwell is a good guy, straight shooter. He's not the kind of guy to just go out there and lob some bullshit for clicks. And now we see what's happening this week. Mm-hmm. And we see about the talk coming out of the House about mass defection against Trump. And he was onto something. And this is the first time. You know, we liberals can sit back and go, really? Did it take the rape of children for you guys to recognize who this guy is?
We could do that.
And maybe go against him. But I'll take it.
Not everybody thinks it's a rape. I mean, 15-year-olds.
Well, not Megyn Kelly.
No, 15-year-olds are not like 5-year-olds.
Megyn Kelly, by the way, thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Megyn Kelly.
The more attractive Ann Coulter.
Oh, God. I was going to say they're both equally attractive or ugly. I'll go with the latter. Megyn Kelly was defending Jeffrey Epstein the other night, saying that, oh, come on, he didn't rape 5-year-old girls. He has more of a barely legal fetish. Well, first of all...
Well, that clears things up right there, right?
Yeah.
15 is not barely legal. Okay? And having sex... Okay, if anybody's out there and you're a little confused, I'm going to clear this up for you. Having sex with a 15-year-old is called rape. Okay? Rape. And so we just might be at an inflection point here. I don't know. What do you guys think? Am I crazy? Is optimistic Andy drowning in his own optimism?
No, I said from the beginning that Epstein might be his downfall, so I agree with you on that. I don't know how long it's going to take. I think this is going to drag on, and I think there's going to be a lot of other things Trump does in the meantime. And my guess is he's going to selectively release things about Larry Summers or things about Bill Clinton or things about whoever visited Epstein. Suddenly we're going to see all this information unredacted, and that's going to be his distraction. But I think Todd Blanche is not doing him any favors. His argument that Todd Blanche has gotten into with friend of the show, George Conway, Blanche is either the dumbest deputy attorney general or just a liar, because the notion that he didn't have access to these emails and couldn't have known
That's
when
nonsense.
he had... It's insane.
Look, there have been so many things that one could argue should have brought this man's presidency down the first time and certainly kept him from becoming president again. Whether it's the pussy grabbing, the J6 riots, there's so many things. But he has created this beast called the Epstein files, the deep state, the rich, powerful cabal of Democrats who are hiding this information from us. And if I just get elected again and Congress becomes Republican again, we will do what Democrats have not done. And we will bring all these pedophiles to justice. We will throw them in jail. And the MAGA crowd roared, yeah. And now he's like, hey, fuck those Epstein files.
Nothing
Move
to
along.
see here.
Move
Nothing
along.
to see here.
Nothing to see. Move along. And MAGA is like, nuh-uh. No, having sex with kids is where we draw the line. Okay. And so there's a reason why he hasn't taken questions this week. What can he answer? Sir, are you going to release the Epstein files? Why were you at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a minor for 3 hours? How do you deflect away from this? When has Donald Trump ever shied away from talking, from speaking to the press?
Maybe there is something there. Maybe it isn't a conspiracy. it really, like, when he was releasing like JFK, Martin Luther King.
Yeah, he's released every fucking file. He's released the Penske files from Seinfeld, but he can't release the Epstein files?
Oh, then you start to go, what is that? What's the there?
When somebody acts like they're hiding something, it's because they're hiding something. I've said this before, I'll say it again. He cannot release the Epstein files willingly, voluntarily. It's going to have to come out forcibly through Congress, which is what's happening. But he can't do it because I think we all know why he can't do it. And he's acting like the guy who can't do it. Because if you're innocent and you made this promise for years, and by your indictments and everything else you're doing right now to weaponize the DOJ and the FBI, you have proven that you are a man who loves to indict your enemies, especially if they're Democrats. Why wouldn't he seize upon that opportunity now that he has all the power, has promised that to his MAGA base for years, claims he's innocent, but he just wants to be like, you know what? Let me tank my fucking approval and let me create the specter that I have something to hide when I really don't. Why would he do that? Unless the answer to that question is the obvious one, right?
I mean, because who else could he be protecting? He doesn't protect anybody else.
Right. He doesn't give a fuck about anybody else. He's mentioned 1,000 times in these emails and documents. 1,000 times. Okay? How do you explain that?
Unless it's Putin.
I think there's something here that's going to make Watergate look like 8-year-olds got together and conspired to lie to mommy about who broke the glass playing basketball.
We
in the
passed
house.
Watergate like on January 15th.
This involves Russia. There's so much shit going on here. You know, we've all asked for years, like, what does Putin have on Trump?
Well, we know.
Well, read those emails. Jeffrey Epstein was talking to people in Russia, like, who knew officials in Russia. Who they were literally talking about, this is how we can get this stuff on Trump.
But you also made fun of me, like, for how many episodes when I kept saying PP tape? PP tape. It's all related.
You think I doubt that the PP tape exists? I think there's a shit tape. I think there's a vomit tape. The amount of tapes that I think exist would make Pornhub jealous. Okay?
Ew.
We've seen the photos. The man said, I grab pussies. I walk in on underage models at a pageant. Like, what do we need more to hear? I didn't need those Epstein emails this week, but a lot of people apparently did. I only care if the Republicans in Congress somehow found Jesus this week. God bless them. And I say that as an atheist.
He does seem to get out of everything so far. So, you know, I would assume, as you mentioned before, he's a cornered animal and he is bleeding and he's going to like start a war.
This Epstein scandal is not going away. And today it is the worst for Trump than it has ever been. Yeah. Because his own party is starting to turn on him. It's forcing Republicans in Congress and Republicans at home to answer one simple question. Are you for child rape or not? That's it. There's no wiggle room, right? There's no wiggle room. And we know that politicians are the craftiest motherfuckers on this planet. They are the most selfish, self-serving people ever.
True.
And what they're doing right now, you know, when you want to check the way the wind is blowing, when you put your finger in your mouth and put your finger up in the air, like, if you don't think Mike Johnson, Mr. Jesus himself, if you don't think John Thune, if you don't think any of these people are putting their finger up in the air and going, oh, fuck, I'm not going to 6 months from now defend why I voted to protect pedophiles. Look, John Thune recently, despite intense pressure from Donald Trump to kill the filibuster to end the shutdown, he said, fuck you. Mm-hmm. Again, if this is the inflection point, if this is the schoolyard, and a lot of the kids are starting to see somebody push back on the bully, and that the bully might not be the bully anymore, then it's a fucking pile-on. They hate him. They know he's destroyed their party.
I think that's true.
They would love to take his ass down. The only reason they haven't done it is because they fear the MAGA base. And I've said this before. The nanosecond they smell that MAGA's not with him, and there were a lot of people talking this week about MAGA being broken, Nick Fuentes being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
If MAGA starts to break, then these fuckers will come out of the woodwork to stab him, not in the back, right in his fucking forehead.
Well, if it's a true inflection point, then let's see the Senate vote.
We're going to see a couple of very important votes. But the next question is, if it passes through Congress, how on earth does he sit in that oval and veto it?
Well, it has to pass the Senate with 67 votes. So they're going to need to be like 15, 16.
No, I'm saying if there isn't a veto-proof vote, if they just pass it,
Oh, he'll veto it.
Yeah,
He'll
he'll
just
ve-
veto
I
it.
how does he veto that?
With a
He
pen.
doesn't care. An auto pen.
An auto pen. I didn't do it. It was an auto pen.
I think the death knell is there already, but I think that would really sound the alarm for a lot of people who are on the fence right now.
Well, he has other choices. He controls the Justice Department completely. And because of that, although I know that people would be very upset about this, but he could drag it on by selectively releasing only documents that affect Democrats or Democrat
No.
people.
The vote is to force the Department of Justice to release the full file.
Yes, but over what period of time and how quickly and which way, and how do you redact it so that you protect, quote unquote, sources and methods or whatever other nonsense that they pull up.
I forget the exact language, but I think the only redactions are victims, to protect the victims.
Oh, you mean,
It's
but
not-
all his friends will be victims?
It's not to protect the guilty. And
Interesting.
so,
Depends on how he defines victim.
but it's, I'll use this analogy again. It just depends whether you believe, like I do, that the boulder was at the top of the hill and it was kind of rocky. And to your point, he was able to do things. Well, once that boulder starts rolling down the hill, which I think it is now, that shit doesn't work anymore. And Republicans acting the way we've seen them reportedly act, it might be the indication that that boulder is rolling down the hill, and they are like, you know what? I'm getting the fuck out of the way of that boulder.
That'd be great.
I hope so. But I mean, there's a lot of things that could distract everyone's attention. And,
Sure. And to your point, when it comes to DJT, anything is possible. And when you have, to date, the Republican Congress and the Supreme Court in your pocket, anybody who says, oh, this is going to happen, you're a fool. Look, this is the time. This is the moment. This is the moment.
I mean, it's hard to disagree with you. It's so obvious, but
And if it doesn't
I
happen
don't
now,
know.
but he's desperate. Why do you think he's doing all the things he does?
so hard to know.
He's desperate. And, you know, when you take the fact that this is a guy who's nearing 80 years old, he looks fucking tired. He walks like he needs a walker. Like, we know that he has no interest in politics at all.
But he can tell you everything about marble.
I know a lot about building. I'm the greatest builder ever. I could see. What do you want to know about marble? He cannot be having fun right now.
No.
I don't care how much money he's grifting in his crypto scams. Trump 28? I don't know if this motherfucker's going to get through Trump 25. Right? Trump 28? Listen to me, liberals. I love you and I appreciate you. But honestly, don't waste a nanosecond of your precious time on Trump 28.
I agree with that. I think J.D. Vance is really looking forward to him not making it to 2028. That's pretty clear.
JD might think he's going to inherit the throne.
The only way J.D.
Yes.
Vance inherits his throne is if he doesn't make it to 2028.
Yes. Did you see Weekend at Bernie's?
Well, there you are.
He isn't going anywhere
Oh,
they'll
right.
prop him up.
So to sort of put a pin in this Epstein conversation, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries this week said Republicans have been engaging, quote, in a pedophile protection program, end quote. That's some pretty good damn branding. Anyway, let's get to our winners and losers.
My winner, Gavin Newsom, who attended the UN climate conference in contrast to no U.S. representative and recasted climate change as a cost of living issue and about economic power. My loser, U.S. homelessness policy. the Trump administration plans to slash long-term housing programs, which risks sending 170,000 former homeless people back onto the streets.
My winner, after 50 days of being stuck in limbo by Speaker Johnson, is Adelita Grijalva. From Arizona's 7th Congressional District, she took the oath of office Wednesday and gave a powerful floor speech calling out Mike Johnson and the GOP before signing the discharge petition. My loser is Russia's first AI-powered humanoid robot, Idol. It collapsed face first on stage during a highly publicized debut in Moscow this week, and it's a perfect metaphor for Putin's war on Ukraine.
My loser, Donald Trump, because after 10 years of sucking the living life out of America, it appears the walls are starting to crumble around him. And my winner, the Epstein survivors, who may finally be getting accountability and justice. And that brings us to the weekly rant. So Donald Trump's existential crisis involving Jeffrey Epstein leapfrogged to new heights this week with the release of that treasure trove of emails from the past 15 years between Epstein and his co-sex trafficker, Ghislaine Maxwell, and several others, including author Michael Wolff, and officials connected to Russia. At best, these emails suggest Trump's knowledge of the heinous rapes that took place at Epstein's various residences, and at worst, it suggests more personal involvement on Trump's part. But what's certain is the scope and scale of this data dump is staggering, and the panic has set in. Trump, the White House, Caroline Leavitt, they're all desperately trying to spin, to deflect, to deny the legitimacy of these emails. Trump attacked them Wednesday night as part of the Democrat hoax, and Leavitt herself tried unconvincingly Wednesday to downplay the magnitude of this bombshell, telling reporters at her daily briefing that, quote, these emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. She continued that Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. Wow, that's some explosive new news, because Trump has always maintained that he booted Epstein from the club and ended his relationship with him because he, quote, stole girls from him and because of real estate disputes. This is the first time that someone inside the administration has acknowledged that Trump had actual knowledge of the sex trafficking of underage girls. I wonder if that incriminating slip of the tongue has put Leavitt on the hot seat with her angry, defiant, lying boss. Look, I've seen a lot and heard a lot in my years, and one thing I've come to learn is that where there's smoke, there's fire. And we've been choking on Epstein's smoke all year. But now we're starting to see the burning embers through that smoke. And whether or not we're walking into a five-alarm blaze remains to be seen. But the emails released this week demand answers to myriad questions, such as, what did Trump know? When did he know it? Why did he spend hours with a victim at Epstein's house? And perhaps most importantly, why won't he just fucking release the full files? What is he hiding? An innocent man caught up in a hoax doesn't fight like an animal to keep the Epstein files secret. He doesn't attempt to strong-arm congressional Republicans to vote against the release. That sounds like someone who believes this is a scandal which could ultimately bring down his presidency. He's acting like he's hiding something because he's fucking hiding something. But the most important thing that must happen here for the survivors is to get the justice they've deserved after so many years of suffering and being ignored and being dismissed. The pedophiles who committed these horrific child rapes must be held accountable. And it shouldn't matter who they are, how prominent or powerful they are, what their famous last name is, or what party they belong to. If they've done the crime, they must do the time. All right, let's get to Tara Palmeri. She is the host of the Tara Palmeri Show and author of the Red Letter newsletter. She has spent more than 15 years covering national politics and foreign affairs, previously working as a White House correspondent for ABC News and chief national correspondent for Politico. She has hosted multiple podcasts, including Broken, Jeffrey Epstein, and Power, the Maxwells, and previously hosted Somebody's Gotta Win for The Ringer while writing a political column for Puck. Tara, welcome into the back room.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting, Andy.
So much going on this week. It's kind of dizzying. I'm not even sure where to start, but I'm going to ask you a question about what I'm thinking based on what I'm seeing and hearing. It just seems like right now there's this giant boulder, this Epstein boulder rolling down a hill. Trump's desperately trying to get out of its way. Do you think he's going to get out of its way?
No, I think it's impossible. The boulder's too big and it's too loud and it's just such a big story. So no, I don't think so. So even if he, they don't get a veto-proof majority and he vetoes the bill or just tells his Justice Department, give them a bunch of redacted documents and it's all redactions, I think people will be furious if they see that too. But yeah, no, I don't think this one's going away anytime soon.
So we had this big treasure trove of emails dumped on us this week. Give me your takeaways from what you think are the most important and even incriminating things to come out of that.
I think the fact that so many of the emails include President Trump and that Epstein obviously knows him so well, and that these emails between him and Ghislaine Maxwell, especially the one where they're talking about the victim, it's not like they were, writing those emails assuming that the world was going to read them. They were just two partners in crime, you could say, that were just corresponding over email. And I think some of the names, like the email that Epstein fired off to Bannon with just a list of men's names, it really matches the list that I've seen from victims who say they were trafficked to those men. And I wondered if that was, Epstein's list, really,
right,
of all the men that he knew. Some of it doesn't make sense entirely, but yeah, it was. I mean, also it was really sad to see how many people remained friends with him after his conviction, which is something we knew, but like people at such high levels, like Larry Summers advising presidents, on the board at Harvard, talking to Epstein like they're chums, they're old buddies. And I think it just shows you that they didn't take the severity of his crime seriously. The fact that he was a convicted sex offender.
Mm-hmm. Or I mean,
like,
is it possible that not only did they not take his crime seriously, but worse, maybe there's something else going on there?
Oh, yeah, that's always a possibility. But I mean, who would spend time with this person? I mean, he wouldn't be allowed to live on most blocks.
Right.
Because of Megan's Law.
Right.
And yet he's able to have access to some of the most powerful people. I mean, Steve Bannon, too, their emails about expanding to the right-wing movement to Europe. This is someone who was still an advisor to Trump.
Talking to the Russians.
The White House.
Talking to the Russians.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
How to deal with the Russians so that they have leverage over Trump. I mean, it's all very disturbing.
And raises so many questions.
He really was acting like a typical KGB officer, using the compromise that he claimed to have on Trump, saying that he had pictures of Trump with the girls in his kitchen, a place that Trump has said he had never been, although that contradicts what he has told other people in the past and what victims have said themselves. And, they can't keep their story straight. And that's because inside the White House, there's an omerta. They're not allowed to ask about Epstein. And so the White House, whatever you're getting from them, they're not asking Trump about it.
Yeah. And it makes you remember a month ago when Howard Lutnick, which I think was a story that kind of died way too quickly, but he lived next door to Epstein, and he said when he was there, he saw the massage tables and the video cameras, and he said that he referred to Epstein as the greatest blackmailer in history, and that there's a lot of people out there who know there are tapes that exist, and it's blackmail. And that might explain so much of this, especially when you think about what you're saying about all the prominent, powerful men who still seem to be in his orbit, even after the news broke about who he was and what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it that Jeffrey Epstein was able to maintain these circles because of what he was able to offer. A lot of it, I think, revolves around women. And I think he was able to keep those people because of what he offered, because it was socially embarrassing and it could destroy their lives and their careers. And you even saw from the exchanges after he left county jail that JP Morgan worked really hard to retain him as a client. They continued to use their services to pay various women that were working for him and girls. We don't know the ages, actually. And they vouched for him at the highest levels. Jess Staley, who went on to be the CEO of Barclays, thanks to Jeffrey Epstein's recommendation. He was asking, Jeffrey about Snow White or Beauty and the Beast, saying he was having a glass of, I think it was Chardonnay in his hot tub in the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico that Jeffrey Epstein dreamed of turning into a place to breed women. So there's so much complicit, like they're so wrapped up. There's just so many ties. And I think these people were like genuinely afraid of him because of what kind of damage he could do. Mm. He seemed unhinged from the emails as well.
Unhinged and almost like sycophantically attached to Donald Trump. Like his world seemed to revolve around Trump and talking about Trump with so many people and trying to be involved and ingratiated in Trump's world.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think once Trump became president, I think Epstein realized that that was someone that he had dirt on, that he felt was in a very powerful position that he couldn't exactly use. And so once Trump was in that position and he wasn't getting anything out of it, I think that's when you see Epstein sort of spiraling.
Mm. But I mean, that whole exchange with Michael Wolff, like the day of the debate, the presidential debate, and I mean, it's kind of bizarre that Michael Wolff would be strategizing with Jeffrey Epstein.
Not kind of bizarre. It's highly unethical.
Yeah, I'm being kind, but it just everything about. I mean, the one email that I guess got most of the attention in the news media yesterday. It has some things that are very clear, like Donald Trump was at my house with the victim for hours. That's clear, okay? The question then gets begged, why was Donald Trump at Jeffrey Epstein's house for hours with an underage girl? Okay, so that's obvious. But then there's all this cryptic stuff, like he's the dog that hasn't barked, and then there's the police chief, and I'm 75% there. Like, what do you think all that meant?
Yeah, the police chief I think they're suggesting that the police must have something on Donald Trump. Why else would they mention a chief? I mean, they did a lot of really rigorous work. They went through Epstein's garbage.
Yeah.
They talked to all of the people around him. I'm sure if Trump was that close to Epstein, that he would have come up, and he was such a prominent figure in Palm Beach for owning the club and being a celebrity. I can't imagine that they didn't, and he was friends with Jeffrey for so long. I can't imagine that they didn't go to Trump. Plus, he owned the resort where Virginia Giuffre was recruited. So, and it seemed like from the emails that he was telling Ghislaine Maxwell to stop recruiting from Mar-a-Lago, which would obviously place him in the center of a global sex trafficking operation.
Yeah. And the other interesting thing in that one email is that if we remember when Deputy AG Todd Blanche went down in July to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell, she said that she's never seen Trump at Epstein's house. But in that email, when Epstein says Trump was at the house for 3 hours with the victim, she's like, yeah, I was thinking about that too. So that is an outright lie. So that asks, what else is she lying about? And that brings us back.
She's been lying. Well, she's a charged perjurer. I don't know why but she was even invited to do that. She also is a sex offender. I mean, the whole premise of that interview is completely
but Blanche is now back in the hot seat because he's claiming that, he didn't have access to these emails, which obviously we saw how easily Congress got them with a simple subpoena. The Epstein estate put out a statement saying that, we didn't hide anything, which is what Todd Blanche claimed. But I guess in a different world, Todd Blanche would go back.
Wanted to investigate this case. They could just send a subpoena to the most obvious place to get evidence, which would be the Epstein estate. But it's so clear that they don't want to. And I also question that they didn't already have those emails, because in the Ghislaine Maxwell case, I'm sure that the Southern District of New York would have subpoenaed the emails from the Epstein estate. Why would they have not done that? I mean, that's really valuable evidence for them.
Yeah, well, that's just one of the many questions that this week's treasure trove of documents are forcing us to ask. And that's why I think it's that boulder that's rolling down a hill. But wouldn't Todd Blanche, in a perfect world, in a different world, wouldn't Todd Blanche go back and talk with Maxwell again to talk about all these things we now know exist, to call her on that lie? What do you mean you never saw him? You're in an email saying, yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like, are we seeing either gross investigative incompetence or a cover-up or both?
All of it.
Yeah.
I would say cover-up more than incompetence, but yes, a cover-up being led by an incompetent crew, which is probably the best kind of cover-up because it's not a good one, which means hopefully transparency will, not transparency, but the truth will come out. These people are, they don't care about the truth.
And what do you make about the meeting with Lauren Boebert in the Situation Room, of all places, with Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, to get her to change her position, to change her vote?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, if that isn't a
it's like you're
cover-up.
really using the gravity of the location to try to put pressure on a person. I think it's crazy. I mean,
They're not even hiding the cover-up. That's the crazy part.
it's not a cover-up. It's a shakedown.
Shakedown, as to me, as part of their ongoing cover-up. But it's just crazy that all of this is done in public, as if, I mean, the hubris is unbelievable, but it does seem like this scandal is too big to fail. But people like me have been disappointed 1,000 times before when we predicted the existential crises that Trump's faced. But this one just feels like it's got some different kind of legs. It's hard to...
Yeah, it does feel very different for sure. I mean...
And he's acting like it's different.
Understandable. It's a very understandable case. It's not a threat to democracy. I mean, January 6th to me felt like something that most people would understand. An assault on the Capitol, but it was to some very political, but I don't understand.
Because he was able to spin it. He could say, no, the J6 people, they're the patriots. They're the ones that were blah, blah, blah. You can't spin sex with minors. And the one question that everyone should be asking is the obvious one. Why not release the files? If you're innocent and you've made this promise for years, you have all the power, which is what you said you would do if you had all the power. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Your favorite thing is to prosecute Democrats, right? You said you would prosecute the deep state pedophile Democrats. Why? And he's acting, why is he acting like he has something to hide? Because it seems clear he has something to hide.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing really, I think it's just out there. He's collapsing, and it couldn't be at a worse time for his presidency when poll numbers are diving. They had a pretty terrible night in the special elections, the Republican Party, and cost of living is still high. Inflation is still high. I think he's heading into lame duck world if he can't, control his members. But they know that their constituents want the files released. And there'll probably be as many as 50 members that vote to release the files. Even before these emails came out, they were starting to crack. And, we're already hearing from at least a handful. And once you get more than 10, it's pretty hard to keep them in line. And I think that's why Mike Johnson moved up the vote. So,
And last question, where do you think it goes after the House? What happens in the Senate? And if the Senate does what we think it might do from what people are talking about, and they pass it, what happens when it lands on Trump's desk? I mean, could he veto what everyone else in the country seems to want?
If it's not veto-proof, she's going to veto it, of course.
But how does that look? How does that make it better for him?
I mean, we've just been talking about the fact that he doesn't care how it looks.
Yeah.
So this is his choice. But or he just doesn't veto it and tells his DOJ to send them a bunch of blank files, which is what they've done already.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, it's certainly going to be interesting where this goes. It is exhausting. It is dizzying, but there is something different that I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It just feels like we are spinning in circles a little bit, but the truth comes out dribble by dribble, and that keeps the story alive. So, to all people listening, whistleblowers out there, leakers, truth tellers, you can hit me up. You can find me at the Red Letter, my Substack. Watch me on the Tara Palmeri Show, and yeah, if you have any information, definitely reach out.
Tara, thanks for coming on and helping us unpack some of this stuff.
Thanks, Andy.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
Well, bye.
Bye-bye. This episode was produced and edited by me, Andy Ostroy. It was co-produced by Matty Rosenberg and Jen Hammoud for Radio Free Rhiniecliff, with additional editing by Matty Rosenberg, music by Andrew Hollander, and graphic design by Cricket Lengyel. And with a special thanks to our sponsor, The Epicurean. Again, thanks for listening. Please rate and review wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to the Backroom with Andy Ostroy YouTube channel, where you can watch full videos of our interviews. See you next time.